A midlife crisis is more than just a cultural stereotype. It's a real psychological struggle that can surface between the ages of 40 and 60. Often triggered by aging, loss, or unmet expectations, it can actually lead individuals to question their identity, make impulsive choices, or abruptly abandon long term commitments. While not officially classified yet as a mental illness, the emotional and relational fallout is very real, especially for the spouses and families left behind. This podcast gives voice to those living through the aftermath, exposing the hidden pain, and seeking accountability, healing, and understanding. Thank you for joining us today on MLC Bomb Drop and Beyond. The stories and events discussed in this podcast are for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered legal, medical, or professional advice. Any names, locations, or identifying details have been changed to protect privacy. Any similarities to actual persons, living or dead, or real events are purely coincidental. The information presented on this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered as professional advice. Always consult with a qualified expert regarding any decisions related to your specific situation. The views expressed by guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the podcast creators. Affair down. Why the MLCer trades down and who the affair partner really is. Today's episode is going to discuss why the midlife crisis individuals, known as MLCers, often affair down. We're going to introduce how cluster B traits, such as NPD and BPD in affair partners, plays into the dynamic, and we're going to explore a little bit the psychology behind why this match feels intoxicating to the MLCer, but is ultimately destructive. Between 20 to 25% of men and 10 to 15% of women admit to having extramarital affairs during their marriages. The source there is General Social Survey by American Association for Marriage and Family Therapy. And in Psychology Today, the Journal of Sex Research says that affairs are most common between the ages of 40 and 55, coinciding with the most common period for a midlife crisis. A 2013 study in Personality and Social Psychology Bulletin found that men and women often downgrade during affairs, choosing partners lower in attractiveness, education, or emotional maturity compared to their spouse. And this is thought to reflect psychological factors like low self-worth or escape from accountability. Approximately 15% of the general population displays traits associated with cluster B personality disorders, which include narcissistic, borderline, histrionic, and antisocial personality traits. That source is by National Institutes of Health. And then in Brunel and Campbell, the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, research has shown narcissistic individuals are more likely to engage in infidelity, both emotionally and physically, due to entitlement, a need for admiration, and a lack of empathy. The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, DSM, says that people with BPD are often impulsive and may struggle with intense relationship instability, which makes them statistically more likely to become involved in a rescue style or chaotic relationships. Dr. Jan Halper, author of Honest Truth About Dishonesty, says about only 3 to 5% of affair relationships result in a lasting long-term partnership. And Peggy Vaughn, author of The Monogamy Myth, says the divorce rate for affair-based relationships is estimated to be 70 to 80%, especially when those relationships are born from midlife or emotional crisis. Welcome back to MLC Bomb Drop and Beyond. I'm your host, Trina, and today's episode is going to ruffle some feathers a little bit, but it needs to be said. And this is the topic of why the midlife crisis person almost always affairs down, and why the new partner is often someone with cluster B traits like narcissism, borderline, or histrionic personality disorder. If you've ever looked at your ex's affair partner and thought, seriously, why him? Seriously, why her? You are not alone. And you're not imagining things. This is, there is some psychology behind this. There's pathology behind this. And today we're going to break it down. All right. So first of all, we're going to start with the term affair down. Affair down refers to the moment you discover that your once loving spouse or partner who had high standards has left you or betrayed you for someone who is, by every objective standard, less than. Sorry to have to say that, folks, but it's true. This person is emotionally unstable, intellectually unimpressive, physically underwhelming, and maybe even visibly troubled. This is fact, and it's not opinion. Again, it is just fact of affair down and what the objective standard of less than really is. I think everybody can figure that out. And while that might sound judgmental, the truth is it's not about looks or wealth. It's about character. Character, integrity, and it's about quality. Affair partners often lack the emotional intelligence. They lack emotional depth, maturity, and decency that the betrayed spouse has. And yet, they're the ones that the MLCer has chosen during this crisis. And why is that? Well, that brings us to the psychology of it. The MLCer's identity collapse. The midlife crisis is not about a new lover. It's about an identity collapse. This is really sad. This is where the mental health issue kicks in, because it's all about their identity, and it's a really difficult time for them in their head. The MLCer is no longer sure who they are, what they've built, or if they even matter. They feel old. They feel trapped. High level of discontent. They're maybe ashamed and disappointed of what they haven't achieved. They had all these big dreams, and now it's like, is this it? But instead of facing this, or trying harder to achieve it, they run from it. So then they meet someone who validates a fantasy version of themselves, someone who reflects back, oh, you're so sexy, you're so smart, exciting, powerful, desirable, and they are hooked. But here's the thing, a healthy, emotionally intelligent woman or man would not feed that fantasy to begin with. They would challenge it. They would ask questions, and they'd hold a mirror up to them. But someone with cluster B traits, oh, they will play that game all day long. Cluster B magnetism. Why toxic attracts toxic, just like hurt people hurt people? Well, it's the same thing. Toxic attracts toxic. So let's talk a little about the affair partner, which is often overlooked and often misrepresented. These individuals often show signs of NPD. That's narcissistic personality disorder. They crave validation, status, and control. Then we've got BPD, borderline personality disorder, emotionally chaotic, very needy, and a huge fear of abandonment. Then, on cluster B, we've got histrionic personality disorder, or HPD. HPD folks thrive on drama, seduction, and attention. Again, that's histrionic personality disorder. And finally, we have antisocial personality disorder. Here we have manipulation, gaslighting, and even sociopathy. So again, we've got cluster B, which is NPD, BPD, HPD, and ASPD. That's a lot of acronyms. And again, I'll repeat all those little symptoms. People who crave validation, crave status and control. They're emotionally chaotic, needy, and fear abandonment. Thrive on drama, seduction, and attention. And finally, they are manipulative and sometimes even sociopathic. Not everyone fits neatly into a diagnosis, but many APs exhibit traits from these groups. So, why do they attract the MLCer? Isn't that so weird? Well, because both are wearing masks. The affair partner validates the MLCer's delusion, and the MLCer validates the AP's hunger for attention, fantasy, and ego supply. It's not love, it's mutual exploitation. And I don't even think they see that. The affair partner isn't better than you, they're just better at fantasy and definitely more tolerant of dysfunction. Then there's idealization, which is the drug of the MLC affair. In the early stages, we've talked about this before. In the early stages of an MLC affair, the connection can look intoxicating. Intense texting, romantic declarations, high sexual chemistry. This is idealization. It's not even sustainable. It's when both parties pretend that they're in a little fairy tale, an escape from reality. The affair partner tells the MLCer, "Oh my gosh, you've been so unloved. You're so misunderstood. I see the real you." And the MLCer tells the affair partner, "Oh my gosh, you make me feel so alive. You're everything I've been missing." But this is not real intimacy. This is trauma bonding. This is two unhealed people clinging to each other, looking to avoid looking inward. Sorry, I meant it's two unhealed people clinging to each other to avoid looking inward. And when reality creeps in, the mask slips, just like it did at bomb drop. So, why the affair partner can be so dangerous? And they can be super dangerous. Let's be real. Some affair partners know exactly what they're doing. They insert themselves right into a marriage. They triangulate. They love to triangulate. It's so lame. They fuel the discard. And why is that? Well, because many affair partners that you've seen, many affair partners with cluster B traits get a psychological high from winning the MLCer, who so victorious. They feel superior to the betrayed spouse. They are now controlling that narrative, and they are feeding off all the chaos and secrecy. Some of them mirror the MLCer perfectly, just like narcissists do. Others use emotional blackmail or sexual leverage. Many will isolate the MLCer from their children, their family, even their values. This isn't a love story for sure. This is a hostage situation dressed in perfume, lust, fast cars, whatever. And it's really sad. It's almost like this should be illegal, but whatever. And why you feel crazy and why you're not. If you're the left behind spouse, you probably ask yourself, "Oh my God, was I not enough? What does he or she have that I don't? Why would why would he or she destroy everything for that?" Here's the truth. You were too much. You were too real, too honest, too reflective of their inner shame. They didn't leave you because you lacked value. They left you because you held up a mirror that they could no longer face. The affair partner, he or she is easier, less demanding, less complex, less human, and let's face it, has really low standards. Your spouse or partner did not upgrade. They downgraded to someone who wouldn't expose the truth that they're running from. These relationships often burn out. I think it's less than 2% survive. And why is that? Well, pretty simple. The high doesn't last. The affair partner starts demanding more. The MLCer starts resenting that. The MLCer starts resenting the reflection. Real life shows up. Money problems, legal issues, estranged children, health scares, and reality. And suddenly, the fantasy turns into a nightmare. Some MLCers try to return to the marriage. Others spiral deeper, cycling through more affair partners, more chaos, more depression. Super sad, super tragic. The affair partner may leave. They may cling tighter. And they may destroy what's left of the MLCers' relationships out of spite. It can get really messy, it gets really painful, and in most cases, it ends in deep regret. But don't worry, you're not part of that ending. We've talked about this before. Your spouse is on their train track. They are on their path. You are not the discarded. You are now the survivor. Remember that. While they're out there chasing validation in shallow places, you are here continuing to grow. You are healing and you are learning. You're learning that what they chose wasn't better, it was just easier. You're learning that real love doesn't discard. Real love is unconditional and again, does not discard. And you're learning that anyone who trades down for chaos was never equipped for depth to begin with. So their story may be a tragedy. It's still being written, but yours can be a rebirth. Be glad you're not an affair partner. Be glad that you are not a person having the mental health, a midlife crisis. You know, that's a horrible thing for them to have to go through. But you have been spared that. And because of that, as painful as it is, you can go forward and rebuild. And this is your rebirth. Thanks for joining us today on MLC Bomb Drop and Beyond. Thanks again, you guys, for tuning into Midlife Crisis Bomb Drop and Beyond. We have passed over 1,000 downloads. We have hundreds of subscribers, if not over 1,000 or 2,000 already. So I just want to say thank you. How grateful I am for every single one of you that's listening and that has taken the time to be interviewed and appear on the show. I have a waiting list of people I'm trying to get to, so hang in there. We will get to you. I really appreciate it. And I'm so glad to hear that everybody is enjoying the show so much. And I know it provides a lot of support. So thank you so much for that. And if you've been through a midlife crisis or been impacted by someone else's and you want to share your story, I'd love to hear from you. Please reach out to me on Facebook at MLC Bomb Drop or Instagram, MLC Bomb Drop. So reach out however you like. Your voice matters. Your story could be the one that helps someone else feel seen, heard, and understood. Until next time, take care and keep standing in your truth. Hey, if you think you might be having a midlife crisis, go check out the 2-minute quiz at midlifecrisismarriageadvocate.com. Again, super quick little quiz, totally free. Check it out at midlifecrisismarriageadvocate.com.